threatening internet posts made by the Florida shooting suspect put a spotlight on the role social media companies could play in preventing tragedies. A YouTube user says he contacted the FBI and YouTube in September when Nicholas Cruz apparently commented on a video saying, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." The FBI says it investigated but was unable to identify the person behind the post. YouTube removed it.
Cruz also posted several images of weapons on Instagram. An Instagram spokesperson said, quote, "There is absolutely no place on our platforms for people who commit such horrendous acts. We have found and immediately deleted the shooter's account on Facebook and Instagram. YouTube referred us to their policy center," it says. The platform can disclose user information to law enforcement if they believe doing so could prevent death or physical harm. CBS News contributor Nicholas Thompson, editor-in-chief of Wired. He joins us from San Francisco. Good morning, Nick. So what more could these platforms be doing?
Well, they could have a series of policies that help more in these cases. You could have a much closer relationship between the social media platforms and law enforcement. They could make it much easier for law enforcement to get information. They could hire many more people to monitor these platforms for threats like that they could send on. But at the same time, they also have to protect user privacy. So there are complicated trade-offs, and they also have to protect free speech. So the complicated trade-offs here, Instagram has put itself in one place, Google has put itself in another place, but there is more they could do, but it's tough.
Now, the disturbing comment where he said, "I want to be a school shooter," was in fact reported to the FBI. The FBI says it did investigate, but they could not positively identify the origin or the genesis of that comment. How difficult is it, Nick, to source these things out?
Well, one of the really interesting questions here is whether they were not able to figure it out because the comment had already been deleted on YouTube, because it had been reported. And one of the first things YouTube does is they delete stuff that they see threatening or that can cause harm. That's their general policy. Because it was deleted, that may have made it, or had it been deleted before the FBI began their investigation, that would have made it harder. On the other hand, it appears as though Nicholas Cruz used his real name, if indeed that was Nicholas Cruz. The other confounding factor here is that there are tons of threatening posts made on social media. So the real burden is on the FBI to say, okay, is this a real threat? Can we tie this to other accounts? Can we Google the person's name and see if there's other information there? So what we don't know is whether the system kind of broke down on the FBI's end, because they didn't find information they should have found, whether the system broke down kind of on YouTube's end because they deleted the comment and weren't forthcoming with the FBI.
Well, here's the question we had this morning talking about this. How many people are on their Instagram account, like he was, posing with a bunch of guns, saying that he wanted to commit violence? And how is that? That's legal? The internet company should censor that, report that? Where's the responsibility?
And how common is it, too? Yeah.
It is unfortunately common. Instagram actually has very strong policies, as we've talked about on this show before, to try to identify offensive, harmful content, to take it down, to knock people off those platforms. Of all the social media companies, Instagram probably has the strongest policies. One of the most interesting questions, I think, is whether the social media policies should work harder to kind of algorithmically identify this stuff and then not delete it, but try to shift user behavior. So one of the things that Google has built is when they identify somebody searching for jihadist content, they have the capacity to show them to counter-radicalization content. Could you do the same thing for people who show attributes of possible shooters? I don't know, but it's an interesting question.
All right, Nick Thompson, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us from California today.